Hi, Tana Marshall here with your Feel Good Friday message. Today, I want to talk to you about a topic that a lot of people are uncomfortable with, and I call it later. Now, specifically in my situation, caring for my mom full time, you know, inevitably there's going to be a day when she decides to move on. And I've become very comfortable with these conversations because we went through this a lot with my dad when he was in and out of the hospital. His health was up and down and all over the place for 2 years. I felt like we had him 2 years longer than we were supposed to. So I kind of felt like we cheated death. And I was so grateful to still have him here because there were times we thought we were losing him. He had little mini strokes, he had heart problems, he was in the hospital in and out. And just kind of fading, and then he'd be back. and and the thing is, he kept changing his mind about what he wanted after he was gone. It used to be just cremate me and throw me in the ocean, and then he was like, no, the ocean's too cold, I don't want that. And one of the times when he was cognizant, he was actually in a convalescent home after a stint in the hospital. He had to recuperate a little bit before he could come home. And I said, okay, Daddy, you need to tell me what you want. What do you want? Tell me now so we can make sure it happens. So he finally made up his mind. We split him up, his ashes. Part of him went in the ocean. Part of him was scattered over my grandparents' grave, his parents who are in the Veterans Cemetery here in Los Angeles. And part of him I have saved for my mom. They're actually in my bedroom in a little bottle because my mom's going to be cremated and go into a niche at Forest Lawn where her family is. My grandfather actually worked for Forest Lawn during the Depression, so he got a niche a long time ago. So he and my grandmother are there, and my Aunt Tana. So my mom is going to go in the niche with them. So I'll put some of my dad in there with her so they can be together always. So once you talk about it, then it's done. You don't need to talk about it anymore. We took care of my mom's arrangements years ago, and it's all done. It's paid for. All I have to do is make a phone call because, when that time comes, you don't want to have to be dealing with details on top of the grief that you're dealing with because it could happen suddenly and unexpectedly. And, then you're in shock and you're having to make these decisions and realize, oh my God, this person is gone. My life is completely changed now. Everything's going to be different. And that's just too much. So I'm glad that we got that changed or that taken care of. And my husband does not like to talk about this at all. I think that people think if you talk about it, it's going to bring it on sooner, especially people who are, studying law of attraction. It doesn't mean that if you talk about death, that it's going to mean someone else is going to die sooner or you're going to die sooner. It just means you're making plans to make things easier on those around you. Like my nieces already know what I want. So I don't have to think about it. If something happens to me tomorrow, my nieces know that this is what I want. This is where my ashes are going to be scattered, and they're fine with it. They don't get emotional or worried about it because they know it's a long time away, hopefully. But it took me a few years to get out of my husband, what do you want? And now I finally know it's what he wants, and I can take care of it when the time comes. And hopefully it's a long ways away. But it's amazing. I've talked to a lot of people, some in my family and some extended family, and I'm like, do you know what you and your spouse want? Have you talked about it? And they're like, no. Like they get scared, like, no, I don't want to talk about it. But it's really important. So make sure, no matter how old you are or what state of health you're in, just make sure the people around you know what you want if something happens to you because it's important. And it could be just you need to decide, make it a brief conversation, and then you're done. Then you go about living. But aside from that, the topic of later, which I always, that's my little terminology for when mom passes on. Aside from the details of the immediate event happening, when you're a caregiver, sometimes you don't think about later and you're just so caught up in your job in the present moment, which of course it's good to live in the moment, but it's also good to have a plan for later because if you don't, again, you don't know when that person's going to pass on. And if you haven't made some kind of plan, whether you've made concrete steps towards that plan or put something in place, even if you just have the idea of what you want, that's really important because otherwise you could be completely lost. I know people who've been completely immersed in the role of caregiving for somebody, and then that person passes away, and then they're like, "Oh my God, what do I do? Who am I now? What's my life about? It was all about this person, and this person is gone, so I don't know what to do." So again, you're dealing with the grief on top of this feeling of being lost and confused and having no identity and not knowing who you are or what your role is in the world because your role has been taken away. And I kind of view my role as a job that I have right now, and eventually I'm going to get laid off. And I'm making sure that I'm going to get a good severance package so I can function for a while I figure out my next steps. And even though I have that in place for myself, I have things written down that I want to do. And as I've said before, these videos are one thing that I can do to kind of prepare for my business because I'm creating a library of what I teach, what I know, what I want to share, what I've lived, my experiences that I can share with you that hopefully you can benefit from. And that's all I've been able to do, really. I've been doing these for about 4 years now, and it makes me feel really good because I feel like it's a foundation for what I want to grow later. And it may look completely different when the time comes. I may be led in a different direction than the one that I specifically have envisioned for myself. But the point is, I've written it down because I used to have a general idea. I want to be doing this, I want to do that, I want to put this into place, and I want to get this up and running with my business. But a couple of months ago, I thought I need to get a clear vision of what I want my life to look like every day, every week, every year, what kind of income I want. And I wrote it all down. And that made me feel so much better because I can put that aside and know, okay, I have that written down and that's the plan. That's what feels good to me right now. I can go back and adjust it if I need to over time. If something new occurs to me, like, ooh, I want to do that, I want to add that, or I want to do this instead, I can always change it up. And even if when the time comes, I feel like I'm going to take it in a completely different direction, at least I have something written down. There, I've put energy on paper and there's an intention that's been sent out into the universe. And you know what? The universe might bring it back to me in ways I never expected. So, Mike Dooley likes to talk about staying general and just taking baby steps towards your goal so that you leave yourself open for the universe to bring you even bigger and better things that you can't think of, that we can't think of in our tiny human minds. But the universe is infinite and has infinite possibilities. So you want to stay open to that. But you just want to have some kind of plan in place. So, as important as it is to have plans in place for your how do I want to say this gracefully for for why can't I think of words, for when you die. Trying to think of a gentle way to say it, but the plans in place for what you want when you're gone, your last wishes. What do you want fulfilled for you after you're gone? What do you want to happen with your body? Where do you want to end up? Who do you want to take care of it? That's really important. But what do you want to do with your life? And again, this applies more to people who are caregivers and even parents. There are people who are parents that when their kids are gone, they look at each other and they're like, what now? Who am I? My kids are on their own. I don't have to mother them or father them all the time anymore. Now I don't know who I am. So it's really important to have these goals in place for yourself. And with women, this usually happens around menopause, which if you ever read any of Dr. Christiane Northrup's work, she specializes in menopause and what can go right in women's bodies and how menopause is a time of rebirth and regeneration and really getting in touch with yourself and what you want and where you want to take your life in this next phase. So you might want to check out her work if you haven't heard of her or you haven't read any of her work yet. If you're feeling kind of lost because the role that you had is no longer there and you're feeling like, who am I? And, maybe you're around, 40, 50, 60, this could help. But this could happen at any stage in life. And it's really prevalent with caregivers because you've really got to figure out and write down and set some intentions about what you want for yourself after that person's gone later. And what are your goals and dreams? Dream big, just don't put any limits on yourself. Just let the sky be the limit. If you had your perfect ideal life right now, what would it look like? What would it feel like? What are the details? And write it down. And it doesn't matter if that's not what happens for you later. And don't worry about if you don't believe it at all or, oh my God, how could this happen? Don't worry about any of that. Just get a clear image or a clear idea about what you want later. So I hope this helps you if you are in this situation or you know that you will be in this situation one day, because it's really, really important. And it really helped. I mean, boy, I've been, teaching stuff about this for a long time. And like I said, it was only a few months ago when I actually wrote down the details of this is what I want my life to look like. This is how much money I want to have coming in. This is what I want to do with the money. This is what I want to do with my time and my energy. This is where I want my business to grow. And this is how I want to help people and serve people. So it helps to write it down. It really does. Don't worry about anything else. So I hope this helps you, and I hope that these videos help you every week. Just kind of stay on track a little bit and maybe get the inspiration or some information that you needed that maybe you didn't even know that you needed. So I'm always happy to be here with you, and I want to thank you for being here with me. I really, really appreciate it. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. If you would like these videos delivered straight to your inbox every Friday, jump over to my website, tannermarshall.com. Join the mailing list. You get a little gift and a special note from me every Friday. So thank you for joining me. Make sure you know what you want later, because it's really important. And just have a good weekend. In the meantime, enjoy, okay? I'll see you next time.